Hello, Malo Day, and welcome everyone to another episode of the Polynesian Eyes podcast. We have a live digital kava session here tonight. I'd like to welcome everyone to the show. We appreciate everyone who's joining in. We're looking forward to having another show for everyone this evening. And as always, we will be putting this podcast not only on our YouTube channel, but also on our various other platforms as well, including Spotify. We'll be putting it also on iHeart Radio podcast. We'll put it on Apple Podcasts and also on Amazon. We are going live on a variety of different platforms as well: Facebook, YouTube, Patreon, Instagram, and also on X with Elon's platform there. So first things first, want to say thank you to everyone for the support. We hit 500 subscribers on YouTube this week. Pretty excited about that. Appreciate the support there. Also had an interesting update from the Spotify platform. We're going to go ahead and start by just kind of sharing that update with everyone here. And basically, it's kind of like the wrap up for the year for a bunch of the different content creators on Spotify. And this is a couple of the highlights that we got from Spotify on how we've done so far. We've gone live, I think, 5-6 months now. So just going to play this real quick and just kind of share with everyone the updates here. So apparently for Spotify, we are a top 15% a video podcast on Spotify. And also really appreciate all of our fans that continue to listen to us. The feedback from the statistics are our top fans who consistently support us, listen to our podcast 10 times more than any other of the listeners. So we got a pretty strong and loyal group there following. So appreciate that. And then obviously we were kind of put in the category of storyteller. A lot of the work that we do and a lot of the shows that we have here really related to Polynesian history, Polynesian perspective on where we stand on many of the current news stories and categories that are going on around the world and in the Pacific. So really appreciate that. It's a lot of work that goes into this, and we appreciate all the support that comes from all of the listeners from around the world. And some of the statistics that were interesting, we have listeners from 15 different countries that join in. So that's always a good bit of fun for us to see where everyone's listening from around the world and also viewing. First things first, this is a little bit close to home for myself and Mr. Aotearoa. Masi is in Tonga right now, visiting the Kingdom of Tonga, having a good time, walking around. A lot of memories he's sharing from his time in Tonga, and we enjoy seeing those updates from him. But as you guys know, we did go to high school in Hawaii when we left Tonga, when Masi came over, and my younger siblings, and they all went to Kahuku. And I am a St. Louis man, as we like to say in Hawaii. But we had the state championship this past weekend, and it was a showdown between St. Louis High School and Kahuku, which is a pretty strong rivalry in Hawaii. And I wanted to bring that up and just kind of watch some highlights, just because it was a great game. A lot of people don't really realize how competitive Hawaii high school football is. You know, I've lived in California. I'm living now in Texas. And, you know, these are, you know, a lot of people also mention Florida, and a lot of those areas mention high school football, how competitive it is. And a lot of people don't realize how competitive in the talent level that is found in Hawaii. So this is the quick recap of that game. Wanted just to play through it and do some reactions to it and go from there as our first segment here on the show. That was one thing that was interesting about the game. St. Louis ran the ball a lot more than I anticipated. Not sure if that caught Kahuku off guard because Kahuku tip traditionally is a heavy run. It looks like they brought in a new quarterback halfway through the season, and in the last few years have gone a lot more pass dependent. But St. Louis, we came out deciding to run the ball, and it really paid off.
First and goal from the 1. Here goes Lackinen. Tripped up at the 3-yard line. Lackinen into the end zone. Touchdown, Crusaders.
Yeah, Titan Lackinen had an awesome game. I think he had 100 yards in the first half, ended up with a total of 150, obviously scores this touchdown. Started out as a slot receiver, then kind of moved back into that tailback position. His father was the D-line coach when I was at St. Louis, so kind of cool to see this. One thing I did want to mention from watching the game, when I was in high school in Hawaii, we played at Aloha Stadium, and they're playing now at the UHS Stadium on campus in Manoa. And I think it's a better environment just because it's a smaller location. The fans are closer. It's more intimate. You get a better experience, in my opinion, at that venue, even though the Aloha Stadium has that, large stadium kind of idea behind it. But in regards to the overall environment, especially with Kahuku, who travels well, they fill up those seats. St. Louis came in well as well. You can see on their side was filled in. But this was to me just kind of observing that this seemed to be a better environment overall. Hey, T-Style, malo. Yeah, hey, thanks to you. Next stop, a milli. Oh, yeah, that would be awesome. But, we're just grateful people want to listen. Another interesting thing along that T-Style, we average around 18 to 20,000 views every 28 days. It's just kind of crazy. That's awesome. And then on TikTok, we are extremely busy on TikTok. I think that's probably the platform that we get a lot of views, a lot of responses. And so that's pretty cool. But good to see you, T-Style. Malo. So, yeah, looks like St. Louis scored first, got on the board. And as you can see here, like, Kahuku threw the ball. There's not very many running highlights. A lot of these are throwing. Obviously, they brought this young quarterback from the mainland. And, they've kind of changed their offense from what we grew up playing. Kahuku travels well, not only on the island, but anywhere in the country. So that's always awesome. Once again, typically it was the other way around. All the running highlights were from Kahuku. St. Louis was all the throwing, but St. Louis ran a whole lot more.
From the 3, handoff, Lackinen. First goes left, then goes
there
right.
We go. Touchdown number 2 for Titan.
Touchdown, Crusaders.
Once again, all throwing highlights for Kahuku. Great interception there. What I really enjoyed about this, I mean, this is the St. Louis side. When I was at St. Louis, it was expected you win the state championship every year. That was like the norm. And because that was the standard, it didn't seem to be as much excitement and involvement from St. Louis fans because I think we got a little comfortable with winning state championships. But it's awesome to see. And maybe, like I mentioned earlier, maybe it's just better because of a smaller environment. But it just seems that there's much more engagement from the St. Louis supporters. And once again, it could be the environment, but I thought that was cool to watch and see. 17-7. Still in the first half. Hey, Polynesian Prince, Malo Toko, thank you for stopping by. Appreciate the support, man. Thank you. Once again, the running highlights were with St. Louis, which is kind of crazy. We're in the second half right now, 17-10. Kahuku knocking, kind of putting pressure. I think this is going into the last drive. This came down to the wire. It was a great game. Hey, we are going to talk a little bit Polynesian Prince on Moana 2. I actually just watched it before I came to do the show. So this is the last play, man. Came down to the wire. Good pressure, defense held. I mean, it was a great game. Great game. St. Louis, nobody was really talking about St. Louis. They were all talking about Kahuku, Mililani, and Campbell. No one was really mentioning ILH or, traditional powerhouse St. Louis having an impact. But we came in big, and thanks to Kahuku for making it a great game. Came down to the wire. Yeah, a lot of excitement. It was a great game. It was great to watch. A lot of fun there to see that part. A lot of memories coming out of high school. Credit to Kahuku making it a tough game, making it a close game, and really, it's good. It's good for not just St. Louis or Kahuku, but this is good for Hawaii high school football overall. Produce a lot of talent coming out of Hawaii, and so that's pretty cool. So that's the first segment there. Had to bring that up just because that was exciting news for a lot of our viewers, and for me and Masi. All my siblings are Red Raiders for life, and me, the lonely St. Louis man. So that was kind of fun. The next segment is, I don't know if I think everybody is maybe familiar with iShowSpeed. He's a live streamer, very, very influential live streamer. And this kind of goes along with this theme of a lot of the Polynesian influence throughout the culture internationally, not just through sports, but through entertainment. And it's kind of cool to see every aspect of the culture kind of being, I'm going to say it, it's just kind of being infiltrated by Polynesian influence. And iShowSpeed is a great example of that. His followings are in the millions, and him showing up to New Zealand. And I also saw there's talk about he was thinking about going to Fiji. So really, this is just one out of a tsunami of Polynesian influence in the culture around the world. So there's a couple videos here. I wanted to walk through it, just kind of show that, and just kind of walk through some of the cool things. Obviously, he spent a lot of time in New Zealand with the Warriors, just because they're a really cool brand right now. That's kind of the cool brand in New Zealand, is the New Zealand Warriors. So here's the first one. Looks like he's playing a little touch.
Here, come on.
And actually, iShowSpeed's actually pretty quick, actually. Naturally talented. As he shows here, just kind of moves. There's a try right there and touch. So
come on, bro.
So that's kind of cool. He's playing rugby here. It's great for rugby. It's great for New Zealand. Great for Polynesian culture, and the parts of the culture that we're interested in, and really showcases some of our people and what we do there. Here's another interesting video here. He's still with the Warriors, and this is all live stream, as you can see, like right here. You know, he's got what, 33 million views or live people watching. So I mean, this is no small thing, right? This guy is someone who has a lot of influence, a big following around the world. So still kind of cool to watch him come to the pub to Polynesia and kind of expose his viewers to some of the things that we as Polynesians find interesting and bring to the table in regards to culture. I mean, he's relatively athletic. I don't know if that was an actual player.
Better, man.
I don't know if he's an actual player right there, but I mean, he can move. And he's going to get Zelenziak here to come out, which is, a New Zealand Warrior star. But, oh, there we go. DWZ.
What I'm doing? I got to talk to him. As soon as you throw it, go to it. All right.
And he's going to do his signature move. Boom. This is my favorite part right here. They're not just making fun of him. They're having fun together, right? They're jumping with him and just kind of laughing together.
No.
And to me, that's what made this kind of cool, because that really showcases some of our, perspective on the culture and how we behave. Is we're kind of having fun, but we're not at his expense, right? So T Style here says, he raced the fastest race for 10,000. Oz beat him too. Yeah, I mean, this guy is he's kind of a cool personality in the pulp culture, but he's also genuinely fast, right? And has some natural ability there. So yeah, he ain't no chump off the streets either. So kind of cool there. The last piece, and this is where we're gonna kind of like maybe start transitioning into some of the quote unquote drama that's been going on a lot. There's been a lot of drama going on, it seems like, with tattooing Moana and a bunch of other things. Some of it has to do with, people want to bring this idea of culture appropriation. I mean, I don't know, man. Once you get into that, how do you stop? How do you draw the line somewhere? Polynesian Prince here says, I think New Zealand just got exposed to your typical African American. Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, there's a lot of natural talent there. And I don't know if iShowSpeed played any sports, ran track or anything, but yeah, he's got some real speed there. And I don't know if you guys saw, but there's this Australian 16-year-old who ran like a 10.1 in Australia. And my favorite part is his name. His name is Gout Gout. So let me see if I can find that video, because I think that's absolutely hilarious. Especially because that name, he ran a sprinter. And so I just think his name's freaking hilarious. Gout Gout. Let me see here. Oh, this video may be a little bit longer than I anticipated. But let me see if I can bring this up here. But interesting name. Gout Gout. Let's show this one right here. So they're talking about speed and so forth. But yeah, that Gout Gout, that's definitely, I mean, he might as well be a Polynesian sprinter with that name, Polynesian Kryptonite.
Touch the ground yet, the young man, and he's boomed away here in the heats, and he's gone. 10.05. How do you do, Gout Gout? That is absolutely unbelievable.
This 16-year-old Australian sprint sensation has taken the athletics world by storm. Last month, at the Queensland All-Schools Championships, he pushed the limits of what was thought possible, clocking a jaw-dropping time of 20.29 seconds in the 200 meters.
I mean, yeah,
this was more than just another victory. It was a record-breaking performance that sent shockwaves through the athletics world. In one race, Gout shattered the Australian under-18 and under-20 records, cementing his place in history as one of the fastest young sprinters Australia has ever seen. This 200 meters time made him the 4th fastest Australian to ever run the distance since 1993. He had just achieved a time that only 3 other Australians have beaten in over 30 years. Even more impressive, this blistering performance placed him in elite global company. In the all-time youth rankings, he now sits as the 4th fastest under 18 200-meter sprinter in the world, and he's now the equal 28th fastest under 20 sprinter in history. These rankings reflect not just his talent, but his potential to become one of the greatest sprinters Australia and the world
has ever seen. Not just Australia, the world.
In that single race, Gout didn't just smash the Queensland Open 200-meter record. He obliterated it. He recorded the 7th fastest in the world for 2024. And this is just a teenager we're talking about. But today, I want to focus on his incredible performance at the 2024 Chemist Warehouse Australian All-Schools Championships, where he clocked an astonishing wind-dated 10.04 seconds in the 100 meters. That's the 4th fastest 100 meters ever run by an Australian in any conditions. And he's only 16.
Long strides.
The current Australian record is held by Patrick Johnson, who ran 9.93 seconds back in 2003. But Gout's time is a signal to everyone watching. He's closing in on those numbers, and fast. In the final, where conditions were legal, Gout posted a time of 10.17 seconds, breaking the Australian under-18 record previously set at 10.27. It marked Gout as one of the fastest under-18 sprinters in history, placing him among an elite group of athletes worldwide. To put this in perspective, only a handful of sprinters have ever run faster than Gout at his age. And it's not just the 100 meters where Gout shines. He's also dominating in the 200 meters, holding the Australian under-18 and under-20 records with a personal best of 20.29 seconds. To give you an idea of how fast that is, Gout is now just 0.23 seconds shy of the national record set by the legendary Peter Norman, who won silver in the 200 meters at the 1968 Olympics. Earlier this year, Gout's 200-meter performance at the World U20 Championships in Peru saw him claim silver with a time of 20.60 seconds. Not only was that a new personal best, but it was faster than the time Usain Bolt ran at the same age when he set his own records in 2002.
I'm glad they brought that comparison. So he's ahead of Usain Bolt at that age.
With many in the athletics world already hailing him as one of the most exciting talents Australia has ever seen. Gout's recent performances aren't just proof of his speed, they're proof of his consistency, dominance, and the frightening potential he holds. When you think about the future of sprinting, it's hard not to imagine Gout Gout at the top.
Gout Gout.
He's already shown that he has what it takes to not just compete, but to dominate on the world stage. The incredible 10.04 second run is just the latest chapter in the rise of a young star who is only getting started. As he continues to break records and set new personal bests, the question isn't if he'll reach the world stage, it's when.
Yeah.
And if his current trajectory is anything to go by, we could be witnessing the rise of not just Australia's next sprinting star, but one of the world's next great athletes. However, Gout's path to sustained success will require more than just raw talent. Breaking the sub-10 second barrier in the 100 meters is a key milestone that few Australians have achieved. Gout is already on the brink of that accomplishment, but maintaining his momentum as he transitions into senior-level competitions will be crucial. What's your opinion on Gout Gout's future in the world of sprinting? Will he keep up this incredible pace and continue shattering records? Let me know your opinion.
I mean, it's very promising, right? Has a lot of potential. This kid does. Pretty much T-Style here saying, I guess we can say Gout destroyed all the standing records, 100%. This guy's, if he stays training, stays healthy, keeps pushing himself, man, this is basically the next Usain Bolt that we're talking about. Oh, dang. Is that confirmed there, Polynesian Prince? USC is about to give him that type of talent, man. That's what's going to happen, right? They're gonna give him some NIL money, bring him over to the States. The guy will be a millionaire before he even finishes college. So that's a real possibility. Just wondering, Polynesian Prince, if that's confirmed or you're just kind of projecting that. But yeah, I think that's a fair. Whether it's USC or someone's going to offer this guy a couple $1 million to come run for them in college. But yeah, thought that was interesting. Yeah, okay, just assuming I think that's a fair assumption, man. It's going to happen. This NIL money is going to be pulling talent from all over the world once, you know, show that kind of promise. Yeah, let's come back to iShowSpeed here real quick, because he has one more thing that I wanted to share. And this kind of, you know, some people are kind of like all you know, all up in frustration saying this is inappropriate, blah blah blah. I don't know, man. Some people just need to relax, I guess. I mean, I think it's cool that he's doing this, but let's watch this last video on iShowSpeed. Hey, we even got the dog doing the haka. Oh, yeah. He's all into it. I mean, you know, some people are kind of all, you know, it's the haka. It's like, dude, this is cool, in my opinion, right? I mean, everybody that watches rugby, they get exposure to the haka. Everybody, you know, that's familiar with certain things. This kid is bringing a whole new set of eyeballs that, for one reason or another, would never know anything about Polynesian culture, don't know anything about the haka, don't know anything about rugby, don't know anything. And this guy is bringing that type of exposure. To me, it's got to be a plus, man. It's not there's always going to be pros and cons, but I think it's overall positive to see iShowSpeed go to New Zealand. It's great for the Warriors, great for New Zealand. It's great for Polynesian culture, great for rugby overall. I think it's a positive thing. You know, a lot of people are talking about, oh, it's disrespectful and this and that for the culture. I mean, yeah, there's always risk of that, but I think the pros definitely outweighed the cons. T-Style says it's all love. You could see how pumped he was. Yeah, and that's the thing. The guy doesn't have any malicious intent. You can see all kinds of videos of him enjoying meat pies. I mean, I think it's a positive thing, as T-Style there is mentioning. So we're going to slowly work into Moana too, and some of the discussions that are going around there. Here's another interesting, actually, when the St. Louis game was going on, and this, I guess, is also just a preview for a lot of the viewers. A lot of people have been asking when Tevita Fale is going to do another episode. While the St. Louis and Kahuku game was going on the other week, Tevita Fale and I were shooting an episode, and that'll be coming up here. I was hoping to get it up this Wednesday, but with my travel, I've been in Chicago all week this week for work. Haven't been able to do the editing for that, but that's hopefully over the weekend. And we did that episode, and the Kahuku game was going on, and we were able to catch the last couple minutes of it. But we spent a lot of time in that episode discussing various items that tie Tonga and Polynesia to Waihi, or the Americas. And so here was another interesting video that I had found that kind of talked a little bit about that connection and relationship, and wanted to just bring that up and kind of react to that, because it'll slowly build into this discussion on Moana 2 and some of the drama that's been going with that, and also just the overall narrative in Moana that we'll kind of give some feedback on. But let's watch this real quick.
Of the firm view that Kumara came from South America.
They'll say, oh, we've grown this since the beginning. You know, you go to the people that have had it the longest and talk to them.
The incredible thing is that I'm 10,000 kilometers away from home, from Aotearoa, and here I am eating kumara. It's been cooked exactly the same way in an umu, in an earth oven. Tastes exactly the same as it does in Aotearoa. And they have the same word for it.
I think that's kind of interesting. Looks like we'll bring up, before we kind of dive more into this discussion here. Looks like Nela Kata has a comment here. As a tangata fonua, it's all disrespectful. LOL. Nah, I'm Tongan, but I see where the Maoris are coming from, being offended. Maori people don't care about marketing the haka. It's their heart and soul. It's not for the world to know. It's something close to their heart. So I think it's fair they are reacting the way they are. Well, those who complain, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying, Nella. I don't disagree. I mean, like I said, there's pros and cons to everything. But when I look at it as the total pros versus total con, I think it's a plus. I mean, it's just like the All Blacks doing the haka, right? If you're gonna put it out there on the global stage, the risks you run is you don't control that, right? It's once you put it out there and you share, then it becomes accessible and anyone can adopt it, in my opinion, right? It's just like technology. Once you release a technology out there, people who can will adopt that technology if it provides some type of value to them. So I agree. And the reality is, whether you do or you don't, you're going to offend someone. But I think overall, it's a positive for me personally. But are there some potential negatives? 100%. But yeah, appreciate that, Nelakata Malo. Thank you for the comment. So let's see here. Coming back. So this is kind of the interesting thing. Let's change the banner here to the kumala and the sweet potatoes. And that's the topic right now. This is one of the things that was discussed, and a lot of things that point back to Waihi as Polynesian culture origins, as the video shows here. I mean, kumala, right? 10,000 kilometers away from Peru to Aotearoa, and Aotearoa being the youngest, one of the younger islands to be populated by Polynesians. Maybe there were other types of people there as well. Don't know. Wasn't there from the beginning of time. But the point is, this is from an origin, it looks like, from Peru all the way to Aotearoa, and cooked in the same manner and taste the same. I mean, there are many parallels to that. I also know that, like in South America, the manioke, the Brazilians down in South America, they call it mandioca, which is pretty damn close to manioke from where I'm coming from, growing up in Tonga and seeing that. So kind of cool, kind of, interesting to see that. And that doesn't include mound building. That doesn't include the astronomical knowledge that is very similar to the Americas. And, the reason why this is kind of coming up is the narrative that's in Moana doesn't necessarily follow that, but I'm not surprised by it, right? The most well-accepted position on the origins of Polynesians is the Austronesian, Melanesian, Taiwan, kind of from that thinking. That's one way. It's based off, some people say, the linguistical, the genetics. Once again, I'm open to that. I'm not necessarily against that, but that's not what interests me. Ideas and tradition and ways of behavior is what's more important to me personally. Great example is America or New Zealand, any modern nation. You can have genetic material from all over the world. You can have linguistical evidence from different languages that are incorporated into the modern nation. But the ideas that form the nation, that unites a nation, where do those ideas come from? Where do they originate from? And that's where I kind of put more emphasis on, right? In Polynesian culture, what was the religious perspective on those concepts of God and how you run a government, the kingly structure, right? Kava, where does that come from? Where does the astronomical knowledge, where is how the social and familial structures are put together? All of those things, Those are the things that, to me, when we say civilization, that's what really drives it. That's the core origin or the core pieces that bring significant value and determine how people are able to, maintain government and common religion and social and political relationships over millions of square miles, which is the Polynesian Empire. That, to me, is what's more valuable. Obviously, there's genetic, obviously, there's linguistical relationships from what science has brought to the table to Southeast Asia, to Taiwan, to Melanesia. But it really circles back to this question. We shouldn't be surprised if we really believe that our ancestors roamed the northern and the southern hemisphere and potentially navigated around the entire earth. Then of course we would find pottery from different parts of the world. Then of course we would have words from throughout the world that would be found in our languages. And then of course we would have genetic material from different areas. So yeah, that's just kind of my perspective on that. And we'll slowly work our way through and close out our show with discussions on Moana 2, which I literally just finished watching about an hour ago. And it's funny how it just works out that way. Wasn't planning to have the show talk about Moana 2, but it worked out, and that's the direction we're heading. One other thing that kind of popped up in my social media feed is this. So when I first saw this, I had no idea what this was, right? Just kind of looked cool. I was like, maybe this is, I don't know, maybe is this from Hawaii or something? Like, what's this? Wasn't very familiar with what this item was, but was kind of cool to kind of find out. And this is what's cool about learning and growing, exploring. This is a Tongan whalebone armor. So this is a chest piece. Looks like you could hang it around. Looks like there's openings right here and there, and you hang it and it goes over your chest. And what was the purpose for this? So whalebone chest ornament. So yeah, you could say like ornaments, like decorative. Yes, that is one. But when you read into what this has, it says, well, let's go through it. So when was it made? Around the 1700s in Tonga. It's a whalebone chest ornament. Classification, it's a necklace because you can tie it, hang it around your neck. Dimensions, 180 millimeters width, 161 millimeters depth. And it was purchased in 2010. And what is it? As a result of warfare in Fiji, Tongan warriors fashioned whalebone chest ornaments as a form of armor to repel Fijian weapons. They were also used as a symbol of status. From the late 18th century up to the 19th century, Fijian chiefs adopted a similar object of prestige made from ivory and pearl shell called Thiva Vonovono and Thiva Tabua. This is an extremely rare Tongan example, fashioned from one piece of ivory. So thought this was kind of cool, right? And really what came to mind for me was obviously 1700s, 1800s, with the warfare that was going on. This was developed during the decline. Obviously, the Tongan Empire is in severe decline. We can only imagine what they could have developed at the prime of the Tuitonga Empire, right? We see a lot of the ruins that we see on Tongatapu, Vava'u, and Hapai, and we also see those same ruins in Samoa, Wallace and Futuna, right? And then also, one could even make the claims out in the Cook Islands, and then also, even in Tahiti, you could make claim Tapu Tapu Atea. Some people say it's not connected to the Tuitonga. One could make an argument, I guess. But I just thought this was very interesting, kind of a cool thing that came across my feed, that armor the concept of armor was being developed or rebirth. I mean, if that's what they're coming up with in the time of decline, you could only imagine what type of innovations and tools that they were developing during the prime. So I thought that was pretty cool to see such a cool thing from the 1700s, Tongan warriors developing armor, and then obviously it becomes an ornament over time, signifying either the current person's bravery or the bravery of their ancestors that got them to the position that they're enjoying at that time. So really cool. Thought that was kind of a cool find, interesting. The other thing that kind of pops up is where else do we find another Polynesian nation having armor and stories confirmed, not just stories, but confirmed events of long distance travel and even militarization or colonization of other Polynesian islands and Melanesian islands, right? So to me, this is even more evidence of, if this is what the Tongan Empire was doing when it was in its decline, that even further confirms what it did when it was in its prime. Let's see. T-Style says the palatavake is tied to the headdress. Was it a set to include a chest plate? Who knows? T-Style. I know the palatavake. I think that's the Tuitonga's headdress. Could be very possible, right? Because that's the type of things that an ornament that would really show prestige and separate it. The Tuitonga and other types of people from it, but that could be very possible, T-Style. So that's a great question. But you know, this is the kind of stuff that when we have these conversations about a Polynesian empire, I don't even think it's close, and it's not trying to be overly boastful, because at the end of the day, there was no Tonga, there was no Fiji, there was no Samoa or Tahiti. These are formations of nations when the Polynesian Empire is being cut up for colonization, right? It just happens. So, yeah, thought that was cool. Thought that would be something worthwhile for the viewers that they would appreciate. But yeah, this is kind of cool to see. The next piece I wanted to bring up and have just a quick conversation about is this right here. Let me bring this up. And these are some pictures from, this is the current king of Tonga, Tupou VI. And it says, His Majesty King Tupou VI presides as the guest of honor, who is also the first chancellor of the Tonga National University, witnessing the historical ever first graduation of the Tonga National University. So the reason why I bring this up, because I do think this is an interesting concept to be brought up in regards to how the Polynesian nation was able to maintain a portion of its nation independent, right? Kind of referencing the Kingdom of Tonga. Typically, you know, when I was kind of growing up, oh yeah, great, Tonga has a university, great, you know, blah blah blah, good thing. But it did in some of the discussions I've had in the last couple of weeks and throughout our podcast. There's one common theme that is really important that I've kind of, and especially in the political area that we in now in the US and throughout the world, that influence or control over institutions in your society are critical to maintaining the culture and the independence or the survival of a culture and civilization. We're going to use Tonga example because Tonga is the only, you know, Polynesian portion of the Polynesian nation that maintained its independence throughout history. And why was it able to do that? it was able to do that because it was able to create, install, and keep control of institutions. The most obvious one is the political institution or governance, right? Tonga was able to create a constitution, create a form of government, a constitutional monarchy. This constitution was written in Tongan, government was conducted in Tongan, and it gave enough insulation for Tonga to maintain its independence. Another portion of, why Tonga was able to maintain its independence is Tonga heavily adopted Christianity, right? And so in that adoption of Christianity, we adopted a lot of these Christian beliefs, including tattoos, and we may talk about that a little bit later on because there is a little bit of controversy. We mentioned it, I think, in our last live of Malu and how there's people trying to segregate ownership of tattooing and so forth. But the adoption of Tonga to Christianity led to the creation or the establishment of the Christian church in Tonga. And obviously the concept of tithes, which this is another interesting thing. One of the reasons why Polynesians in general, and especially Tongans, embraced Christianity so eagerly, in my opinion, is there was a lot of similarities between the new religion, quote unquote, Christianity, and the old religion. And when I say old religion, I'm not necessarily speaking about the religion as practiced during the time that the Westerners are coming into the Polynesian nations, right? It's kind of a deformed version of the old religion that was being practiced in Polynesia at the time. It's been degraded. It's lost its structure, right? Because religion and culture and politics are all intertwined. And as one of those things, education, as one of those things morphs, it has an impact on, let's say, education, right? If education gets totally morphed and significantly changed its perspective, it'll have an impact on political structure, it'll have an impact on religious structure, and it has an impact on the social/familial structure. We see that today in modern politics and religion and education. The same thing happens in ancient Polynesia. When Hikuleo, the one and only god that existed in the origin of the Polynesian people, as that knowledge is lost and as political power expands, then things morph into this polytheism that Tonga was in at the time the missionaries came. Anyways, I don't want to get too far off topic here, but my point is there's a lot of similarities and familiarity that Polynesians would have with the ancient religion and Christianity, the new religion, when it comes. And one of it is the concept of tithe or paying tithing. Obviously, in the ancient Polynesian Empire, there was the Inasi and the Polo Polo that were paid to the Tu'itonga, in a sense, as a tithe. And why the Tu'itonga? Because the Tu'itonga was recognized as a representative of Hikuleo, the god Hikuleo, and therefore was owed tithes, right? The original concept of Polo Polo and Inasi was a tithe to the Tu'itonga because of his representation of Hikuleo. So in a sense, it was a tithe to Hikuleo, but given to Hikuleo's representative on the earth being the Tu'itonga. Now, when Christianity comes in, we don't do the Inasi and the Polo Polo anymore, but we offer tithes in the form of Western money or the concept of money. So, reason why I bring up this long rounded about discussion is this: Tonga adopts the Western religion It recognizes that tithes is a natural thing to do. It makes sense. It fits from a traditional perspective of the old religion and of the way politics was run. That is the thing that we're kind of referencing here. So when the tithes are given and those tithes are then sent overseas, the Tongan structure says, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why are we paying tithes to God? And if God is all of our God, why is it being sent overseas? So Tonga establishes its own religion, its own institution that has control within Tonga. And that is a significant part of helping Tonga maintain its independence, because a lot of that wealth, a lot of that influence and direct control of the religion is not driven by a foreign presence that is influenced by foreign politics. By establishing a religious institution within Tonga, with funds staying within Tonga, further allows Tonga to maintain its independence, because it is not giving up not just economic wealth, but more importantly, social, political, and religious influence within Tonga. That's where the Sias Tonga Tawataina, Sias Tonga Ho'eiki, all these other Tongan-based religions that have leadership and that have control within Tonga. No different than how the Anglican Church comes into place, right? Here you have England. It's a major power in Europe, but a lot of the religious power is derived and settled in Rome with the Catholic Church. Through that tension, England creates its own Christian church. And a lot of that is driven because it's all intertwined. The religious, the education, the political, the social, all those things are intertwined. And that's what we're kind of saying that is another important thing. This is why my perspective on the importance of establishing the Tonga National University is a much bigger thing for me now than it would have been in the past, is because controlling your institutions are critical. Great job by Samoa, Fiji, other parts of the Polynesia and the Pacific for establishing these things ahead of Tonga. And I think this is a great thing for Tonga, because that brings in the tertiary or the higher education aspect of things within Tongan influence and control. And with the modern technology and access to information that we have now, there's no reason why Tonga shouldn't control these things. So I thought that was pretty cool. Another thing that's really important when you put it into a historical and political context of why this is important to have. Looks like we have a couple comments here now that Mr. Aotearoa, who's in the kingdom, is bringing up a question here. So Tua, give me your thoughts about the second vote of no confidence for the PM. Some of the common threads some people shared with their concerns about the PM is that he has traveled way too much and out of Tonga for too long. I mean, there's an interesting there's two sides of the story there, Masi, that kind of comes up. Is a lot of people say, hey, you're wasting time, right, with the vote of no confidence, and say, oh, if you don't have enough, is this going to be a waste of time like the last vote of no confidence? Then you shouldn't do it. It's distracting. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence of both sides. Me personally, I'm a little disappointed with the government, what it's been able to accomplish in Tonga. I was hoping for more. Obviously, being a Tonga High School alumni, a lot of the people in the government are Tonga High School alumni as well. So I had higher expectations of what they would accomplish. Obviously, the fact that vote of no confidence, it's a political move. It's a political strategy. And you don't have to win to achieve your political goal with that. And it sounds like they're just, maybe they think they can vote the new PM out But at the very least, it looks like they're trying to limit his power for the future. And this has impact, obviously, on whether he's able to bring in more votes to win his seat and even win back the prime minister position again. And that's I think that's I've heard that concern that he's traveled, been away too much, and out of Tonga when a lot of work needs to be done in Tonga. Infrastructure needs to be developed. This is one of the cool things, I guess, the Tonga National University. That is a cool thing. I don't know how much involvement the prime minister has had in establishing that school, but I see him in the pictures here at the bottom. But I personally, I think there's a lot more work to be done domestically in Tonga. There is a need to travel overseas, but that should be with the direct focus of how do we improve the everyday quality of life for every Tongan citizen. And personally, I don't know. Obviously, I'm not in Tonga. I don't live there. But from my perspective, I don't know how much that quality of life has improved under this administration in Tonga. And so that may be one of the drivers behind the second vote of no confidence. So that's some of the initial thoughts there, Masi, on that. T-Style says Taufuri Fonua was Hikule'o's father. That's something that's interesting. I know some people were called Hikuleo, Tongan style, T-Style. My comments are primarily behind the oral history that says Tangaloa, Maui, and the Taulas were led by Hikuleo, or what I like to say is the founding fathers of Polynesian and Tongan civilization, was led by Hikuleo. That's why he has that name. We make the claim that Hikuleo is the same as Jehovah, the voice that spoke from the cloud, the same voice that led Israel to their promised land, the same voice and led, if you're LDS, that led Lehi and the Jaredites to their promised land. We believe, or I believe, Hikuleo has that name of Hikuleo because he was the voice that guided Maui, right? And Tangaloa, who eventually changed the Tangaloa title to Tu'itonga, and Aho'eitu became the heir of that new structured and formulated leadership, just like the last Tu'itonga bestowed the leadership and the Taumafakava for the Tu'ikanukupolu or Tupo the First and his family to now lead forward. There was a change in leadership, but the Hikuleo that I'm referring to, T-Style, is the Hikuleo who in oral history was the god of Pulotu. And I know there's other interpretations that, you know, Maui, Tangaloa were brothers to Hikuleo, who was a girl, who was a woman. I don't prescribe to that. I prescribe more to who led the original founding fathers of Tangaloa, Maui, and the Taula to Tonga, that established the Tongan civilization, which when I say that, I'm referring to the religious mode of structure, the political structure, the social structure, the navigational knowledge, and the economic system that established the Polynesian Empire, that led to a lot of the things that we find now in Polynesia. So kind of those are some of the comments there. I appreciate the comments from the viewers. With that being said, we're gonna go to, and then we're gonna have two more segments here. Looks like I didn't have a banner for this one, so I'm gonna go at it here, and it is Micronesians with Tongan DNA. I'm just gonna add that real quick. And this is kind of interesting. I did not know that this was actually something that was common But apparently, let's see if I can find this video. I saved it. Let's bring this up here. This is from TikTok. And this was a gentleman, I've seen a handful. He kind of shares his journey. He did his ancestral DNA. He's Micronesian from Palau. But he says a few interesting things on what he sees of others in Palau and what they find in their DNA. So I just kind of let's listen through it, and we'll kind of do some reactions.
So, my fellow Pacific Islanders, I have a question. And Heavenly Father, please guide me in this video. The ancient kingdom of Tonga extended to Fiji, Samoa, Tokelau, I think Tuvalu maybe, I think Rotuma, many Pacific islands. So they had a vast empire, and anciently it was known that they were feared and respected throughout the Pacific. Now I have a question about Micronesia. On Ancestry DNA, it says that Tongan DNA is common in its readings throughout Micronesia. Every Palauan I know, including myself, has Tongan blood registered on our Ancestry DNA test. I was once mistaken.
That's kind of one of the interesting things I wanted to kind of talk on is his saying that according to Ancestry DNA, Polynesian / Tongan DNA is relatively common throughout Micronesia. And then he states that almost every Palauan that he knows has Tongan DNA tied. Now, when we say Tongan, it's Polynesian, right? Like, once again, there was a Polynesian nation, but there happens to be certain markers for specific areas, just like you find a lot of people that share common DNA markers by village. Depends on how granular you want to get by which specific island in the Pacific you want to go into. But I thought that was interesting what he's mentioning. And we're going to talk a little bit about what potential things explain that. Real quick, Clyde Moore, Malo e Taulava, my Malo tua. Hey, Clyde Moore, appreciate it. Thank you for stopping by. Appreciate the support and the engagement. Toko, Malo, good to see you. Hopefully all is good on your end. So I thought that was interesting that he's sharing that Tongan DNA relatively common throughout Micronesia, and that every Palauan that he knows has Tongan DNA.
For Tongan at the Mormon Missionary Training Center by a Tongan man with a bunch of his Tongan mates. He started talking to me in Tongan before I even knew what he was talking about. So I got confused. And I read a story of another fellow Palauan sister who went to Tonga, and they thought she was one of their own. So I have a question on your thoughts about the ancient kingdom of Tonga and its conquering of the Pacific. Did it reach throughout Micronesia too? It must have. It's evident in our DNA and sometimes our appearance. Granted, we're a mix, so Micronesians don't always look Tongan. Sometimes we look like a mix of other types of Pacific Islander, but many of us do pull Tongan traits or Polynesian traits. So I'm just curious on what your thoughts are on Tonga conquering the Pacific. Were we a part of that ancient empire and we just forgotten? Or were we on special trade route outside of the empire? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. This is most especially for my fellow Tongans. Since this is your history, I would really like to know. Thank you for watching. Malo Sulang and Malo Alpito. Peace. Aloha. Salamat po. Mauriu kakite. Cheerio, mate.
Very interesting. So for this brother right here, I think one of the interesting things that comes up is, why is there Tongan DNA? There's many ways to explain it. Like he mentioned, was it a trade route? But one would assume that this is part of, let's see if we can find this on Tevita Fale's website at thfale.com. And if you guys ever want to, check that out, Tevita Fale has a website there with many, many articles in there. There is, whatever reason it's pulling up here, there is a article that he has on a ancient practice called tokatufa, and I'm trying to see if I can find it here. Let's share this tab. And so this is from his website. Obviously it's zoomed in. Let's see if we can zoom out just a little bit so we can get better visibility on the site. So this is the website. On the articles, you can let's go here, and maybe that'll help us see it a little bit better. Let's see if there's a search bar. Yeah, we might have to fix that. Let's see if we can find it here. There's an article here on the ancient practice of tokatufa, which is basically how the Tongan Empire developed its network of leadership and maintained relationships throughout the thousands of miles that it was spread over, right? And how they were able to do that. Let me see. America is the oldest active civilization. Hopefully we can find it. If not, I'll give a... Actually, I think it may have been some of the first set of articles. Onoatanu interview. Trying to see where, if we can find that. Sorry, guys. Let's see. I'm going to give it one more shot here. Oh, there we go. We found it. So let's zoom out a little bit more. So the ancient practice of tokatufa. So this could also explain some of the ways to explain some of this genetic material being found in Micronesia. So obviously, I mean, honestly, Tonga probably has the most descriptions of the largest double-hulled canoe, the most recognized stories and confirmed evidence of warring within the 1800s in Samoa, in Fiji, Wallis and Futuna, and some of those areas. But let's see here. Specifically, I want to discuss further the meaning of the significance of tokatufa, which was the foundation in which the Langi, or the Tongan Empire, was built, as bloodlines of Langi in Tonga were directly infused with the different island states throughout Polynesia through the practice of tokatufa, where women throughout Polynesia would bear the children of Langi. We say Langi because Langi is the specific location on Tongatapu where Tangaloa lived and resided. And then the mother and child will return to their home islands, and the child would become the leader of the island. This strong blood connection was the driving force that allowed the Tongan Empire to endure so long. In other words, it was familial ties that held the empire together for hundreds of years. This is a practice that is not unique to Tonga alone, as kings throughout the history of man built alliances and dominance through strategic marriages and maintenance of bloodlines. Let's take a look at a few of the well-known cases of the practice of tokatufa in Tonga by the Tangaloa and later by the Tu'itonga. The property in Tonga called tokatufa, which is directly tied to the ancient practice, is owned by, so this is Tevita Fale speaking, my first cousin Ta'anikula, whose family have owned this property for many generations. The Tu'imanua was from a Samoan mother and a father, Tangaloa, from Langi, or Tonga. Au'etu's mother was Tongan from Niuatoptapu and father Tangaloa from Langi around 450 AD. Tu'itonga Puipui, the 18th, Tu'itonga named his son Ka'ulufonua the first. This is during the time when the empire consisted of 20 island states. The name Ka'ulufonua is based off the Tongan numbering system that is based off of counts of 20. In 1250 AD, Tu'itonga Talakai Faiki III, also known as Lomi Aitupua, was the Tu'itonga when the Samoans revolted and freed themselves from the Tu'itonga's rule. His words led to the naming of the Samoan high chief Marietoa. Since 1250 AD, the Marietoa title is commonly regarded as one of the highest ranking chiefs in Samoa to this day. The latter part of the 1300s, the 38th Tu'itonga was Takalaua, was in power in the latter half of the 1300s. One of his wives' name was Vaelavea from one of the island states of the Tongan Empire. Vaelavea son became the 39th Tu'itonga Kaulufonua Fekai III. Kaulufonua Fekai III, after his father's death, reformed and rebuilt the Tongan Empire and made his younger brother, Mounga Motua, the first Tu'iha Takalaua in honor of their father, Tu'itonga Takalaua, to run the daily responsibilities of the empire. Another title for the younger brothers of the Tu'itonga was called Sinai, which was geared to take care of the Tu'itonga's daily affairs. Kaulufonua Fekai III sent 3 of the Falefa throughout the Tongan Empire to govern and oversee the government and replace them with 3 other members of the Falefa in Tonga. So here, list of islands under Kaulufonua. So this is under the Kaulufonua, the 20 islands that are kind of tied to that name, right? Tonga, Ha'amoa, Tefisi, which is Samoa and Fiji, Niue, Futuna, Uvea, Ellis Islands, Tokelau, Lalotonga, Rarotonga, Lotuma, Vanuatu, Niumea, Niuvalu, which is Tuvalu, Tahiti, which is Tahiti, New Tuhuapa, Rapa Nui, Otuhiva, Marquesas, Tuamotu, Kiribati, the Kiribati, Lata, Vainicolo, Port of Solomon Islands, Palau, Marshall Islands, and Aotearoa. So, without getting too tied into that, but that would be the best response for this brother on his question. Yes, the Tongan Empire had a lot of influence, and through the ancient practice of Tokatufa, the governing families in Palau would have had Tongan relationships as family, ties back to Tonga as part of the Tongan Empire. Let's see here. Masi says, also just walking around Mua, everyone's selling Kumala Hawaii, Kumala Papua, and Talo Futuna. It's almost like the people from the Polynesian nation came, shared their crops to the Tu'itonga, and Tongans still eat those crops. I'm pretty sure Micronesia was included and not sure how deep. 100% kind of going along with this article here from Tevita Fale's website. And I'll put it here as a response to everyone in the chats. The link specifically to the Tokatufa article, but also just to have access to Tevita Fale's website, thfale.com. A lot of questions can be answered in relation to the Tokatufa and how this Polynesian empire was governed, maintained, and spread throughout Polynesia and obviously Micronesia and Melanesia as well. So appreciate that. Now we've come to our favorite topic of the day, which, you know, was mentioned here at the very beginning by Prince, which is the Moana 2 controversy. Well, Polynesian Prince, no, obviously, I mean, like we're sharing there with those, a lot of these names are spread throughout Polynesia, and are names that have been maintained for generations and generations, right? So as we kind of mentioned there earlier here with the Vainicolo or Lata, you know, someone from Vainicolo or Lata, the Solomon Islands, you know, bring someone from there, you have a child with them, send them over. But this child and this woman are not always sent alone. You would send kind of like a entourage with them, right? And given a name, and that is the governing family that would manage the affairs in that area. So correct, man. Polynesian Prince says, Tuloa Toko, my last name is Vainicolo, so that caught me off guard. That just goes to show where some of our family are, right? Some of our family are there in those parts of the Solomon Islands and throughout Micronesia and some of those areas, because those families that were put in a position of leadership in those places were given names as well. Let's go here. So I want to start with, let me see here. Let's start with this response. It's another TikTok video, and this is one of the first ones I saw in relation to some of the controversy with Moana, right? We'll kind of watch it. I don't know if we'll watch the whole video, but we'll watch maybe a couple minutes of it, get the idea behind some of the controversy that's going on there, and then we can have a conversation on it.
Okay, I thought I'd just quickly come on here and do a summary on my live if you've missed it, because I felt like I need to say it. First of all, the first thing I wanted to say was, like, no one owns Moana. Not one indigenous group owns Moana. We all have our stories of Moana and Maui. Okay, so if you don't want to be identified as a Polynesian or as a Pacific Islander, then that's fine with us. Go in your little corner and cry me a river over there, okay? But don't ever come and start hating on Samoans just because the majority of the people that worked on Moana 2 were Samoans out of all the Pacific Islands. There were other Pacific Islands, islanders that were there, but I think mainly directed at our Samoan directors. The amount of hate from non-Samoans that I saw, just disgusting, really disgusting. From New Zealand, yeah. I don't even have to say, because I'm not here to, I'll just be doing the same divide. At the end of the day, you don't own Moana, no one owns Moana. Moana belongs to the Pacific people. It doesn't belong to the Polynesian people. It doesn't belong to the Melanesians or Micronesians. It belongs to the people that live in the Pacific. Why? Because we are all connected through the stories and through the waka, through the va'a, okay? So if you're really ignorant about Samoan history and you're asking the question, why Moana 2, why was there a cover ceremony, why just why are the Samoan directors? Because as Samoans.
So real quick, I guess there's a lot of controversy going on. Maybe in New Zealand, out here in the US, I don't hear too much about it, but maybe a little bit heading that way into Aotearoa. There's a little more controversy about it. I don't know why you would kind of take that. It would make sense if a lot of the Samoans were involved in building out of Moana. It makes sense. They would put in what they're familiar with, what they understand. Not an issue for me personally. That's what they know. That's what they understand. That's what they would put in. So yeah, it's kind of a fair. If people are kind of making a fuss about it, then like I said, it doesn't matter who or what is done. Someone's always going to be upset, right? Just like the haka. Just like where you say one person thinks the origin is from Southeast Asia, Taiwan, Melanesia, or whether you believe it's in Waihi, or whether you believe it just originated within the islands themselves with no foreign influence. Doesn't matter what you believe, someone's not going to like it, right? Just like with Moana. Just watch it. I thought it was a decent movie. You know, my kids are probably going to enjoy it. But as to why they think or people think looks like we lost power there for a second. Let me try and fix this real quick. There we go. Hopefully the sound's working there. We had a little bit of a technical challenge there, but yeah, I mean, for me personally, not a big deal. Hey, T Styles, aloha as well. Inukiai. Looks like T Style wants a round. cup for everybody, digital kava for everybody on that. Tevita Tonga says Samoans have been in the movie industry. Yeah, 100%. I mean, makes sense. I mean, to me, what it's just kind of like having iShowSpeed go to New Zealand. It's awesome. Well, no, they're showing quote unquote New Zealand and Maori culture, but Maori culture is Polynesian culture, and then to me, the pros outweigh the cons. And so 100% for me, I don't see why there should be too much of a fuss. I don't see too much of a fuss here in the US, but seems like there's quite a bit of fuss out still in the Pacific Ocean areas. Polynesian says all the Polys arguing over Moana too. All the Tongans know our history, just sitting back, like that meme with the hand in the. Yeah, I mean that's the way I viewed it. It was like my wife asked me what I thought of the movie on our way out, and I said, it's a good movie. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily accurate in the perspective of Polynesian origins, because she finds the lapita pot, and that's the driver of lapita theory and coming in from Melanesia and Southeast Asia. I don't prescribe to that thought, right? And belief, and saw the kava ceremony. Obviously, it's a Samoan one. But that to me, small beans to argue about. I just thought the movie overall was pretty good. Interesting thought here from Polynesian Prince. Do you think Motufetu resemble Tonga? I mean, from my perspective, that's the only thing that would make sense. Obviously, with the perspective of Tonga as the center of the empire is what connected everyone. So in a sense, yes, figuratively, I know for sure that's not what the movie intended, right? But I think the concept and the idea correct. Just kind of like what Mussy was mentioning earlier about, in Tonga, you got all kinds of yams, many kinds of sweet potatoes, many kinds of taro, and, talo futuna, talo tonga, like all these taros and stuff have different names to different places, because just like in Rome, they said all roads led to Rome in the Roman Empire. We take the position that all navigation and travels led to Tonga. Tonga Tapu, especially, because that's where the Tui Tonga was. So yeah, I mean, in a sense, I think that's a decent thought there. And that's the interesting thing there. Polynesian Prince, it was the Tongan Kumete too. Yeah, because the 4 legs, the specific Ha'amoa Kumete has the 9 legs, right? Because their system of government is different. And actually, it didn't have the fillet, how the Maui kava bowl opens up and it fillets open, and it has the 4 legs because that's the same symbol that was carved, etched on top of the ha'amonga, which is the symbol that you find throughout the world. Some people even say that the malu is designed after that. The double V, because that's how you track the sun, the seasons, and the movement of the stars. So could be that. Tevita Tonga says, maybe it resembled Ata, which we would still tie to Tonga. And that could be it, because Ata is pretty mountainous, because he mentions here no mountains on Tonga Tapu. But yeah, I think that's interesting. Polynesian Prince says, when Maui pulled it up and showed the current leading to Motufetu, it reminded me of everything. 100%. 100% Polynesian Prince. Everything leading back to Tonga. That would be our perspective, right? Someone's going to see this online and be like, oh, kind of like this lady is saying, oh, you guys, about the Samoans, people kind of hating on the Samoans for doing Moana because they were heavily involved. Someone could see this and say, well, these guys are biased towards Tonga, and that's why we're making the comments we're saying. But hey, it's the point of having a podcast, have conversations. The point of having a kava discussion is to throw this stuff out, throw the ideas out, let each one fight, let each idea fight, and do its jujitsu choke on other ideas and see which one wins. But yeah, just kind of interesting. We'll come back to the video here and see, give it maybe another minute or two, see what else she says is going on with the controversy out there.
What we've been told in our culture, not your culture, in our history, that Samoa was the cradle of, I'm just talking about Polynesia, we were called the islands of the navigators. Now, if you don't like that.
Yeah. And that's, you know, that's the thing. We challenged that idea here, right? And who called them the island of the navigator? It was the Palangis, because they saw the ships, which could have been Tongan ships in Samoa, for all we know, because the Tongans were going to Samoa all the time. And actually, you know, so yeah, I couldn't help but say that, guys. But let's see what the sister has to say.
Don't hate. Go and do your research. Okay? Because if you do your research will tell you. We don't have to say that. So don't hate on us if we're up there, and not to be arrogant or anything like that. You know, we praise God for the gifts.
That's awesome.
It's him. He's the one that puts us up on those platforms. Okay? It's not because we're superior or we're Samoan, and you know, yes, Samoans are up. I mean, Samoans have navigated many spaces, not just in New Zealand, but around the world. There are Samoans that live in the US. 3-4 generations of Samoans that live in the US. Not all Samoans live in New Zealand. So don't comment about Samoans who have lived their whole lives in America as if you know, as if you control them. No, you don't. If you want to put your specific indigenous race on the map, go and make it happen.
100%.
Because Samoans, and I'm saying this with a real, Samoans are raised in a way where for them not to give up. They are resilient people. That they are raised to go beyond even when it gets tough. Okay? We're just the psyche, but at the same time, we're also raised that way to be tough. We're raised to honor, do your talking on the field, respect your elders, don't say anything unless the elders speak, but go out there on the field and do your talk. That's why there are so many Samoans in the NFL. Some of them are the big stars right now. I mean, look at Tua. That's why there are Samoans in the White House. Did you know that? We have a Samoan congresswoman in the US, United States. We have a Samoan woman who is the National Director of Intelligence of America, will be serving
if she gets voted in, but
administration in the coming year. We have Samoans who are judges in America, lawyers, doctors that work at NASA, that are professors that are teaching in the universities in the US. We've had judges on the World Court who are Samoan. We have Samoan millionaires. A lot of Samoans live in the US, 3-4 generations have never stepped foot in New Zealand. And some of y'all want to just like hate on them because they're Samoan. Do your research. We're all about bringing the Pacific people together. And if I had to tell you from me who are my favorite Pacific people, it would be the Fijians, hands down. I love the Fijians.
We all love the Fijians.
We're about bringing Pacific people. So don't go in there and hate on our people just because we're, if you want to, if it wasn't for Dwayne The Rock Johnson is the most famous person, regardless of his ethnicity. He's the most famous actor in the whole world. And he happens to be Samoan. If it wasn't for him to give us this platform, our stories would not be told. So you should appreciate what your brothers and sisters are doing for the rest of the Pacific. Because we would celebrate if we come and support you and your causes. Not just in New Zealand, Australia, and with our PNG brothers and sisters. I've seen it. I've seen our Samoan people go and support the causes. The Aboriginal people, So no one owns Moana. The whole Pacific owns Moana. That's all I've got to say. So don't be ignorant, don't be an idiot, and don't be stupid, okay? So at the end of the day, for Samoans, we give glory to God. He is the God of the Bible. Tangaloa, our history, yes, that is our history. But that's the old history of Samoa. We still acknowledge it. We still remember where we come from, so we know how to move forward. But for me, in my house, we serve this God, the God of the Bible. And that's why Samoa, we believe, is truly blessed, and the platforms that God has given them. It's not because we're anything. It's because of God. If we didn't have God, we wouldn't be.
Amen to that.
Don't hate on any other Pacific Island brother or sister, because it's not right. It just shows how weak you are. That's all I've got to say, okay? Go and watch the movie. Go and support both versions and enjoy it for what it is. Stop the hate. Stop the division. Okay? Stop being brainwashed. Bye.
All right. Mari. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know what's the driver with her, or what she's observing that's kind of making her think that people are putting it down. Yeah, agree 100%. You know, Samoans right now are doing a great job representing many different areas. You know, like she's mentioning, in 4 generations, a lot of in the U.S., a lot of it's because the U.S. controls American Samoa, and that gave a lot of those people opportunity, and that's a good thing, right? And now they are exposing people to Polynesian culture, just like, you know, iShowSpeed exposing. He's not Polynesian or Samoan or whatever, but he's bringing exposure to our people and our culture, which leads to more opportunity for our culture and our people, which is a good thing. Just like she's sharing that the Samoans, you know, are doing really well right now, doing a lot of great things, and that's a good thing. I'm just, you know, what's kind of interesting to me, what comes to my mind is, I wonder who she's specific. What if is there a specific group that she's saying that she's seeing a lot more of that pushback and hatred towards? I think in general, I mean, some Samoans will pull down other Samoans, just like other Tongans, whatever. We're pretty good at that sometimes. But I mean, I would think in general, we should all be pretty supportive and celebrate all the things that the Samoans are doing for us that are good. But yeah, so that to me is a good thing. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I don't know if it's I don't know. The only thing that comes to mind, because she's mentioning New Zealand's, I don't know if it's the Maoris, because I still don't understand why they call the rest of Polynesia Pacifica or Islanders, when last time I checked, New Zealand is part of Polynesia and is a Pacific island. So I don't know why Maoris say that, you know, and say coconut or whatever, but I don't know. Maybe that's what she's going to. But either way, for me, I watched the movie. I thought it was pretty good. Obviously, I challenged some of the ideas in there, like the concept or the origin through the pottery. Obviously, it's a hint towards that, and some of the positions that are taken in there. But overall, it's a positive. I enjoyed it. I thought it's a good movie. I think everyone should go watch it. I think your kids will like it, and I think overall it's a good thing. It's a positive. So, with that being said, Mo, Malo, welcome, except for the dance. Yeah, I can't argue with that. In my opinion, I think the boy won. I think he was a little more entertaining. And Moana's portion of the dance battle, I think that was because she's quote unquote the leader. She got the votes for that. So, dude, solid 4 out of 10. That's pretty rough right there. I would have given it like maybe a 6. Between a 6 to a 7, but a solid 4. That's not even a passing grade, Devita. A solid 4 out of 10. Yeah, can't argue. Everybody has a right to take their perspective. But once again, we'll close out the show. Really appreciate everybody's support. As I mentioned earlier, we got the feedback from Spotify. Had a great year on Spotify, top 15% for video podcasts on Spotify. Our loyal fans, fantastic support, appreciate it. We hit It's only 4 because it's my people. That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny, Tavi. But going with that, appreciate all the support. Broke 500 subscriptions here on YouTube. Big plus. So, you know, we've been getting about 100 subscriptions every month. So that's a big deal for us. Makes a big difference on kind of mostly the motivation, just to kind of see, hey, I guess it is adding value to people. Appreciate all the support, comments, the shares, TikTok, all the engagement there. So really appreciate everything with that. Lotu Mafileo comment here. It's because when we fill out forms in New Zealand, we have options for ethnicity. Maori have their own, while Islanders have Polynesians. Hence why Maoris don't see themselves as from the Pacific. Okay, that makes sense. That yeah, I mean, see, there's always a reason for it. So I guess it's just referencing the forms that are spoken on the registration. Oh, I appreciate that. That's good to know, Lotu. So I guess here in the US, it'd be kind of being, you know, Latino, or what's there's another thing here that I didn't understand here in the US. On the ethnicities between the Spanish speakers and not. But I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate the support. As always, we say stay curious. Don't be afraid to answer. Yeah, Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander here in the U.S. Yes, that was it. Polynesian Prince, Malo, Malo. But Malo Mo, thank you to everyone. Have a great one. Stay safe. And until next time, peace.